wait a minute for folks to join. John is going to be about 15 minutes late, he told me, and Dan maybe up to an hour late. He's in the middle of moving.
Before we start, can I ask a stupid question? How do you guys get good light on your screen? I put the light behind me, it doesn't work. I put the light in front of me, and I'm just dark in the whole thing. What do you guys do?
I think it's got to be in front of you, and then
So shining on me?
yeah.
Okay. Is that what you do too, Kristen?
I have a webcam. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Or I think I've got the wrong.
There, that's better. I've got a webcam, and that my webcam has a light on it. I Zoom presentations for work constantly, so my employer has us get special cameras so we look better.
Okay, very good. I need one of those. All you see is a shadow and glare from glasses.
I'll send you the link to the one I have. It's not expensive at all. It's like under $100.
Okay, very good.
Sure about Danielle. Let me send her a text message. She just sent me a message. She'll be here in a few minutes. Rain delayed her commute. So why don't we get things started? Welcome everyone to the DMS Board of Directors meeting for August 18th, officially known as the Valley of the Sun Waldorf Education Association, Inc., that are known as Desert Marigold School. So I will read the opening verse and we'll get started. The true aim of education is to awaken real powers of perception and judgment in relation to life and living, for only such an awakening can lead to true freedom. That's Rudolf Steiner. So let's go around and do introductions for those who are here with us right now. I'm Gregory Schneider. I'm the board president, and I'm a parent of 2 kids at the school. And let's jump to Nellie next.
Nellie Rosenbacher, board member, and I have 4 children in the school.
April?
April Sauer, board secretary.
Kirsten?
Kristen Cabina, board member, and I have 2 children at DMS.
Michelle?
I'm Michelle Kratzer, parent council chair, and I have 3 children at the school.
And last but certainly not least, Frank.
Hello, everybody. I am Frank Marizio, executive director. And as of today, I have 285 children at the school.
And Danielle just joined us. Danielle, we were just doing introductions. So once you get situated, feel free to go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. Danielle Martinez, board member.
Right. And just looking to the last thing on the item, Michelle, do you have a copy of the agenda in front of you? And if you do, would you be willing to read the closing verse for us tonight?
I do, yes, and I will. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's jump right in. I think Frank just gave us our enrollment update of 285. Anything else going on with enrollment that we need to know about?
Well, we're up to 15 students withdrawing for the reason that we do not require masks. As I said last week, 2 weeks ago, this is not a win-win. If we were to require masks, we would have equal or even more withdrawing for that reason. So this is a split decision, if you will. We have been adding a few here and there in the right places. And we are due to have a couple of more come in tomorrow. And then we have a big tour next Tuesday with about 7 or 8 students. And so maybe those will be adding as well. As you know, I still have my sights set on 300, but at the very least, I'd like to be above the 287 mark, which is what our budget was for.
Absolutely. All right, any questions on enrollment? Nope. Okay, cruising along. So the last time we met, we voted to engage Melissa Sutton to do a sustaining fund fundraising campaign for us. Danielle, have you had a chance to talk to Melissa and get the wheels spinning on that?
Yes, I did. And I asked her to separate out her billing for just a tax credit and sustaining fund campaign. So she would do that. And we had a conversation about what activities we overlap with and how she could dedicate her time, because she is taking on a full year. Her regular clients have resumed, so she may not be as readily available as we would like. However, with members of our community, I think with little direction, we could go quite far.
Great.
So she's out of town today, but she'll be sending that an email to the group. So as soon as I get that, we can review it.
Excellent. Sounds like that might be in store for our next agenda then. All right. All right. Any questions on the sustaining fund? No. Okay. April and Kirsten, what news on the school spirit store? Where are we on that?
So sorry, Kirsten, were you about to say something?
Nope.
Okay. We just both turned off our mic or turned on our mics at the same time. So we have one school spirit store ready with sort of just unpublished items that are just kind of examples of what we could do. I've asked Kristen to share that because I'm on 2 devices trying to take notes and use Zoom. So if she could have access to share screen, we just wanted to show you kind of some options that we've put together.
Okay. There we go.
Oops, sorry. Cuddly frog.
Cuddly frogs sound great. So like I said, these are just templates. So I'll just kind of talk you through a few of these. So we have a child's hoodie. These are pullover, the one where you see the back of the sweater. That is a zip hoodie. A lot of these items are unisex, which is nice for adults, so we don't have to offer, a huge variety of things. A cap for kids, which is embroidered. There's a sticker, a mug, a couple more shirts in various colors. You can see there's squares on the bottom. So if you look at the women's shirt, it says women's relaxed t-shirt, and underneath you can see that there are 3 squares of colors. So those are the colors that we would be offering. So you could go on, and click on the color, and it can show you what it will look like in different options. Let's see. I'll give Kirsten a second to catch back up.
Yeah, it's not letting me coast on the colors.
That's all right.
Yeah. Back out.
Another hat, apron that's also embroidered. So some of these are kind of digitally printed, and then others are embroidered. So we've got some different options. Stainless steel water bottle, a tote bag in 2 different colors, bucket hat, another bumper sticker. So these are just the things that we've put together to give us a start. I think it's more than plenty to open the store. This particular site lets you choose your own cost. So we pay a certain amount and then we get the kickback based on what we decide the price that we choose for each item. So we would need to do some discussing about that, which we could probably do just, phone calls or through email or whatever and get that set up. I know we had talked about another store. Kristen, did you want to talk about that? I'm not sure that we're going to do it or what your plan is for that.
Yeah, I didn't get my store set up in this last 2 weeks, so I'm a slacker. I still want to set it up just to see like ease of use and they have some sustainability products that I thought were kind of cool. Maybe it's too much, but just so that we have at least two things to kind of compare against.
Question, ladies. Are there any collared polo shirts?
Yes, that is an option.
Yeah.
Are you requesting that? Would you like me to make that my next template?
I know I would buy a couple of those right off the bat.
Okay. Collared
there's the product
polos.
catalog.
Got it.
Yes.
I
They have lots
will-
of things.
Yes,
Nice.
I will put it on my list of items to make.
You want an embroidered couch?
For his office, right?
Right.
Anyway, so we
You know
just
what,
wanted to give
though?
you an idea.
Thinking about that, a lot of our families like quilts, and I don't know if we want throws or quilts for their kids' bedrooms that might
They
sell.
did. Yeah, they did have, I think, some fleece throws, also some pillows. So maybe what I could do, Frank, is give you an invitation and then you could look through and just say, hey, will you do this and this and this? And then I'll just have a better idea of what we want to put on there because we can have as many or as few items as we want. It's totally up to us. So
Very good.
there's lots of
Thank you.
options.
So with the current pricing on there, I guess my question is, what kind of margin do we want to have on these items? Is it, we want to get 50% of the revenue per item, 70%? I just don't know how much cost is associated with each item versus, because that's going to affect what we can mark it up.
Yeah, I think the general cost of a lot of these items are about $15. So that would be, the cost of making it, and then we just, uptick that price. But I don't know. I honestly, I'm not a numbers person. So I don't know. That's up for discussion. I think most people would spend like $20 on a shirt, or I don't know. And each item has a different cost associated. So I think we'd probably be best to decide on a percentage.
Yeah. Luckily, your partner in this endeavor is a numbers person.
Yes. That's why I roped her into this. Help me with the finance piece.
Well, you don't have to answer that tonight, but it's something to think about, and then maybe the next time we talk about this, we can have, I don't know, a couple different proposals. Like if we priced it at this percent, this would be our take per item or whatever.
And in the past school stores, we've had beeswax, the calligraphy pens, the ink cartridges for replacement. Are we thinking of housing some of those items as well?
Yeah, I'm looking into more of a school store, more Waldorf based. And this is more of a spirit store. So this is something that we could get up quick and easily, but we're kind of limited to the items they have for sale. In my over my summer break, I did a lot of research and I went to 4 different Waldorf stores and made some contacts on how to get set up, in a way that's possible. It's just kind of a longer process, and a lot of those things don't come cheap, the Waldorf things. So, when we're thinking about margins and markup, a lot of those things we have to buy in advance if we're going to have inventory. shipping costs. There's just a lot of considerations to make it more Waldorf. But yes, in short, we are looking at those things and plan to do that. It's just going to be a slower rollout. This is kind of something we can get going quickly.
And with the Spirit Store, does that allow us to house our own items? Like if students are making their own quilts and want to put them on or do custom logos or embroidery, is that something we could support?
Does this one, April? I don't know if yours does. Mine does not.
Well, it's all about the art. So what I specifically did with this was I took all the logos that I had access to in our drive that were made by Laura Heaney and uploaded those to the site. And then I was able to just put them straight into the templates. So let's say 6th grade gives me, I don't know, a geometry drawing and they want to put it on a t-shirt or something. If they send me that drawing, I could, scan it, upload it, and then put it on whatever items they want.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Kirsten, in regards to Waldorf goods, I know I've mentioned it in the past, but there is a parent in our school that does have a Waldorf store. So I don't know if we want to link up with them or utilize them in regards to sending interested family members, if they were looking for things, directing them in that regards over to there.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So we are aware of Miss B's store, and I need to reach out to her to see if she wants to work in tandem with us, maybe bring some of her items to the store, to the school. I need to talk to Frank about the logistics of that as well. Do we want someone to have to man that? Because again, that falls on someone's plate to keep inventory. Do we just want, April and I talked a bit about, do we just want those items maybe shipped to her or I? We do kind of like a monthly pickup. So we are considering all those. And I really need to reach out to Miss B to see if she has any ideas or if she's even wanting to do something with us in that way.
I know that she definitely wants to get affiliated with the school so that people are utilizing her more, because it's a service that she's just started, I think, within the past 2 years, but with COVID, everything's crazy, and wants to just foster growing a Waldorf store to provide for the community.
Yeah. And on my list is to reach out to Madame Saint-Hilaire as well, because I know that she makes those beautiful aprons. So that might be another avenue for us to explore. Thank you.
April, are the logos that you got from Laura, are they high enough resolution that the printing and whatnot on these various items is going to be high quality as well?
Yes, I from everything that I know on this site, if you blow it up, it will tell you what, like you'll see, if you're looking at the screen right now, you can see that some of these logos on certain shirts or sweaters are smaller and bigger. If you blow it up too big, it will give you an error and say, this is not going to print well. And so you just shrink and shrink and shrink until it tells you. So it's very user-friendly for people who don't know what they're doing. I trust them, but I have yet to order any of these items to see them in person. That's another one of the next steps is get a couple of these things, to the school to physically look at them and feel them. And I think it'd be good to have them on hand so if people want to see it, or I know I have a kid on the spectrum who's got some sensory issues. He needs to feel every single shirt before he decides whether or not he's going to wear it. And so that's important to a lot of people. So I would like to have a couple of things on hand just to have examples and show them to people. So I think that would help. Good.
Well, nice work, ladies. Thank you. Keep going. This is pretty exciting. And I look forward to hearing the next update. All right, let's take a look at our profit and loss and balance sheets. Pull those up. I'm getting a weird error trying to. Sorry, I have a new computer and I'm still figuring out some of the details. Okay. All right. Apparently, I don't have the ability to share my screen right now due to some security settings. Kirsten, do you happen to have the collapsed profit and loss statement? I think April shared it in the folder to all of us.
Yep. I can pull it up. Let me just grab it. All right. Which one would you like me to pull up?
Let's do number 3 and then number 4.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so this is just July, our very first month in this fiscal year. So, whoops.
Sorry, I thought I'd make it bigger. I didn't know it would take so long. There we go. Oh, it's not as pretty as it.
I'm not sure I can even.
Yeah.
Kristen, I have
Here we go.
to stretch it out when I view it on my own screen.
There we go.
Okay, so we got our equalization payment, we got a little bit of tuition, a little missed income, we got some federal money, 238,000 roughly in income. We had a fair number of expenses leading into getting the school year going, giving us with net operating income of negative 14,000. But we had but then we also add depreciation on that, which gives us net income for July of negative 26,000. So that sounds alarming, but let's take a look at our balance sheet, which is number 4. And so you can see that as far as our balance sheet goes, we're actually doing pretty well by the end of July. We've got 211,000 in cash in various accounts. We are still owed a nice chunk from the state for our next equalization payment. We're owed more federal money. We're getting another chunk of change from the state because thanks to Frank and Crystal's hard work at the end of last year, adding so many additional students, the state adjusted our average daily membership for the year up, which means that we're getting about $4,500 in additional money for the last school year. So that's something helpful. So our total current assets, and not including property, are about 449,000. And we've got fixed assets, land or buildings, vehicles, that sort of thing, of a little over 4.1 million. But then we take away the accumulated depreciation, and our fixed assets are at about just under 2.1 million. With total assets of 2.5. And then if you can go to the second page of this. And this is our liabilities. So we've got accounts payable. Number 4, Kristen. Oh, there we go. All right. So we've got credit cards, we've got accounts payable, we've got payroll, total current liabilities just over 72,000. And then of course we have our long-term debt, which is our mortgage, our loans from community members, puts us at about just under 1.4 million for those. So our assets and liabilities, including our equity, balances out to 2.5 million. And I'm sure Kirsten is cringing right now as I walk through this in a very unprofessional way, but anything to add, Kirsten? Or anyone
No,
else?
I think you did a great job.
Thanks. Any questions about profit and loss or the balance sheet? Okay. All right. Well, that being the case, move along to COVID-19. So, I'm sure it surprised no one that things changed. And just to put this in context, and be a little bit more precise, there was the governor rescinded the executive orders that required the use of masks in schools and required a mitigation plan and all of that sort of thing in June of this year. Shortly after that, the legislature enacted a budget measure that included a provision that created a new statute saying that any public school or charter school in the state cannot require vaccines or masks as a condition of attending public school. And that law was stated that it was retroactive to July 1st of this year. During a lawsuit between the Phoenix Union High School District and a teacher there, the court ruled on Monday of this week that it can't be retroactive due to some technical reasons. I'll leave it at that. So the law actually doesn't take effect until September 29th. Which meant that Phoenix Union High School District's implementation of a mask requirement for everyone on campus was allowed to stay in place, at least until September 28th. And so the court said, come back to me when there's actually a dispute about what after this law comes into effect. The court did also strongly suggest that the Phoenix High School District hadn't given a legal reason why that statute was unlawful or will be unlawful once it's in place. Hinting, you're going to have a hard hill to climb if Phoenix High School, if you think you're going to invalidate the statute or the authority to enact the statute. So that's not the only lawsuit out there. I know of another one. Colleague of mine is actually involved in that one. And that one is challenging the law on a more fundamental level. So that's still pending. And we don't know what will happen with that. So that's the lay of the land. The last time we met, 2 weeks ago, we decided that we were not going to require masks, but we were going to strongly recommend them, aligning ourselves with the CDC and Arizona Department of Education, Maricopa County Health, a number of different public health organizations and public entities in the state. So that's where we are today. So because things changed, I put this on the agenda to discuss, do we want to change what we're doing? Because it now appears that the restriction against requiring masks is not going to go into effect until September 29th, meaning that we could, if we wanted, require masks through September 28th. There's one more wrinkle. I think it was yesterday or Monday, the governor issued a press release saying that he was going to make up to $1,800 per student available to public schools in the state who are in compliance with the law, meaning this new statute that prohibits mandating masks or vaccines for the entirety of the school year, starting on August 27th. And the source of that $1,800 is by applying for a grant through a specific program. And when you're doing that grant application, you have to give information about what your school's mask policy is. So it's not as though you automatically get it, but you would be eligible if you did not require masks. So that's where we are. And at this point, I'd just like to open it up for discussion.
I have a question regarding that grant, because I was looking at that today at the actual application. And it's in regards to, it's tied to ESSER grants and ESSER monies, and another grant as well. And I got on the phone call today with the Arizona Charter Board Association, and they were talking about all of these new programs. And so there was a live link of schools that would be eligible. I didn't see it. I don't remember what our per pupil amount was in ESSER grants. Is this something that we would even qualify for? I couldn't find that answer on my own.
Yeah, I don't know either, because it's only for schools who didn't receive a certain threshold of federal money. This is extra money that is coming from the, what is it called? The American Rescue Plan Act.
Yeah.
That was just enacted earlier this year.
I read through that today. I took some time to go through it line by line, and it's very specific. Excuse me, very specific of what it can be used for because it's federal monies. So it's like tutoring programs. It's almost like Title I needed programs. Like you couldn't use it for capital items. You couldn't use it for normal staffing to buy a third grade teacher, but you could use it to supplement the classroom and buy someone who would tutor kids or a reading specialist, things like that. Transportation, childcare, food service. I was trying to check things off that I would jump at, and I didn't see a lot.
Transportation didn't excite you? Busing systems?
Well, remember, they're not buying you a bus. It's breaks on other things like fuel, and it's just, yeah, they're not buying us a bus. That's $400,000. So anyway.
So it sounds like the financial incentive, I'll call it that the state is offering may not apply to us very much, either in how much we would be eligible for. I know we maxed out what we could get from the ESSER monies, and what we could actually use it for. So, but that's, I don't think we should make this decision based on financial concerns only, especially based on what we know now about how that program works. But we still have to decide, are we going to leave in place the way things are, or are we going to change course?
I feel that we should leave things the way they are. I know that things go back and forth, as we know, on a weekly basis. We seem to have gotten a flood of emails right before our meeting, and it seems like hearing from the parents within our school that they want to make sure that our guidelines stay as they are, that masks are optional for those that want to mask. And I do see plenty of kids wearing masks on campus. Ultimately, though, that the decision is left in the parents' hands.
Other thoughts?
I didn't see a need to change our course either. If we're able to stick with the decision we made and make planning for the families involved, I would like to continue as well. And Frank, I don't know if you had the exit surveys with those families that did leave, but there are additional monies that they can apply for individually, $7,000 per child for different schooling and the transportation, childcare, and other learning.
I wasn't aware of that.
The third one down.
That wasn't, was that for us?
The families applied directly.
Okay.
No, the families applied directly, but it was on that same list of the governor's announcements and the other grants that were mentioned.
It's similar to the ESA. They explained it on the phone call in great detail, but they were talking about it specifically if your school is enforcing something like a mask mandate, that you could withdraw your child and get the grant for that and use it to essentially homeschool or go to a private school or something of that sort.
If they were not pleased with the policy that the school had in place,
Yes.
so it didn't lean towards one decision or the other.
I'm not sure that's accurate. That's not what I wrote in my notes. I would have to look at it again, but I think it was specifically to that.
All right, well, I don't want to get sidetracked by what families who have already left the school have available to them. One consideration is, I know in many of the bigger schools, they have seen a large number, I'll say, of COVID cases in their student population since school began. Some, starting in the first couple of days of school and continuing. I've not heard that's the case at our school. Frank, I assume we would have heard if there had been COVID cases on campus, but
That is correct. To my knowledge, there is no COVID case on our campus. I know there's 5 or 6 first grade parents that kept their kids home because they were sniffling, coughing, and they just wanted to be safe. They decided on their own, it's best for me to keep them home a couple days. But there has been no indication that anyone has COVID on our campus.
then, we have the benefit of having classrooms that have lots of windows in them and the ability to ventilate these classrooms. And we also installed air filters in every classroom. Is that right?
That is correct.
And those have HEPA filters in them. So we have opportunity to keep the air moving a lot more than some traditional public schools do. Which, based on what I know about the virus, would help a lot with that. So I guess that's one of the questions I have is, are the classrooms taking advantage of all those to try and keep new air in the classroom as much as possible?
I know classes have propped their doors open, and it's a it's an interesting call because while the temperature has been down a little bit, it's been very humid because of the rain. And so there's a little bit of, okay, I get a little bit of air, but it gets awfully muggy or stuffy in here. And so I see classes doing it for a half hour and then shutting the door for a half hour. And then after lunch, doing it again for a little bit of time and shutting it. Because like today, it rained 3 different times during the school day. They opened it then because it was so beautiful from the rain. It just felt really good. But prior to that, when it was very humid, they had doors closed. And certainly we're just giving teachers freedom to do that right now. Because of the circumstances, I'm not really pushing, keep your doors shut because you're wasting air. I haven't said that one time. So yeah, they have the freedom to do that, to try and get more ventilation.
Other thoughts?
I think all of these things are good. Having ventilation in the classroom, making sure that we've got the HEPA filters, doors being opened when the weather is good for the day. But I also think that masks are important. And I think that if everyone was wearing a mask, there'd be an upped level of protection for everyone, for students, for staff, for teachers. And I don't think it would hurt to have another level of protection. So I'm willing to revote and see what happens. Things might change, things might stay the same, but I think it's worth a motion and a vote.
I agree with April. I'm a fan of mitigating risk. And, I know it's a highly polarized topic. I'm not really sure why, but I think the safer we can keep our children and faculty and staff, the better. So adding an extra layer to me does not feel like an infringement of my rights. But that's just my opinion. My fear is that we're going to lose a student to COVID, and it's something that we might have prevented. And that's really what drives my concerns. I know that's not anything anybody wants to think about, but when I think about, do I wear a mask or do I not want to wear a mask? Yes, they stink and I don't want to wear it and it's uncomfortable and it's a pain and you can't hear and you can't breathe and all those things. Like, I get it, but I just don't want that on me. So I'm with April. I'd be willing to revote and see if we maybe need to think about being a little bit more proactive.
I think that the science has proven that the death rate for children is very low. Even in Arizona, it's sad to say that over 18,000 people have died of COVID, but the numbers that I'm seeing are 35 that are 20 and under. I don't even know what they are, if they're 15 and under. And I think that it's proven that this isn't a deadly virus for children. And I don't think that we can make a decision based, I have been looking and looking and looking, and I haven't found solid data on studies on masks. And when the former director of the CDC just 2 weeks ago is saying that he can't make a decision on masks in school because there is a lack of data. That's from a former director of the CDC, and he left in 2021.
Oh, we made a mistake. This is supposed to be 11, not 10. So we did increase our panel count.
And right on our website is the Arizona Department of Education Parent Handbook, right? And on page 2, it says that parents have the right to make healthcare decisions for the minor child. That's right on our website.
Arguing that, I just think by people not wearing masks and maybe not being cautious, you're making a health care decision for my kid. And I mean, I hope it doesn't get to that at all. But I mean, that's my driving thoughts is maybe it's just 35 out of 100. I hope one of those 35s isn't one of our kids.
Well, this
It's,
section
That's
it's
all.
35 out of 18,000.
is one daughter.
I hope it's not one of ours.
I understand that. And I also hope that it's not one of ours.
Okay.
We got 8
All
emails
goes from 129
right before
to
our meeting.
130.
Husband and
saying
wife,
from-
so it's really 4.
Oh,
And I'm sure we could rally a whole bunch of people on the other side.
Right,
I'm
I'm
just
sure we can.
Stating my concern, just like you did. You're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change yours.
I respect that, Kirsten. I totally do.
Okay.
So Tanner, what are your thoughts on this subject and as a teacher?
It's an interesting conversation, and I really appreciate all points of view. I'm certainly willing to take it to a vote if that's the best thing for the board to do. I support that. We also would remind everyone that we are meeting every 2 weeks, so we are a pretty fast-acting board. And since this information is changing so quickly and it is a fluid situation, I feel that we would be able to correct it pretty quickly. But I do appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate everyone's candor and honesty. And I really, of course, that's saying the same thing, but I appreciate
I already
it.
counted on the James section, so it's 250 times.
Frank, where do you stand in regards to this then could change, if at all you are possible to get any of that grant money?
Well, like I said, I'm not sure the grant money is something, because of how it's delineated, that we absolutely have to have it. I would want grant money for other things, like to pay for salaries. Allow it to know that I need extra tutoring. I already have tutoring that start in another week that I've budgeted for. That being said, you have to remember, whatever we decide here, there's going to be a ripple effect. I know we lost 15 kids this week because we not wear masks. How many will we lose if we put masks in? At least if we wait for the governor to do it, because there's a chance he might have to change his stance because things are changing in Arizona. Then kids can't go anywhere because everybody's going to do it. As long as there's a choice, and I am not saying I'm thinking of funding first. That's not it. I'm with Kirsten that, God forbid, one of our kids gets sick. I understand that. But I can't help but think if 40 people left us, what would that, we would have to make drastic changes to our school right now, budgetary wise.
Would we want, again, I'm not proposing that we make changes, but would we want to survey our community to find out who would stay and who would go if we made those decisions?
That's a fair question. John's right. We can get that done before the next board meeting. An accurate data of 300 families and what they would do.
If we voted tonight and hypothetically changed the mask policy to say we're instating the mask policy, it would only be in effect until that September 28th date. So if we waited to survey people and then vote and reinstated masks, it would be around for 10 days. Just something to think about. I feel like we're on the clock no matter what with the change or not a change.
That's why I'm assuming 500.
Yeah. Go ahead.
250 a wall. We're still
So it's 4 weeks.
It's the maximum amount of time we could
So what is
currently
250 wall
legally
for,
require masks is until September 28th. So we're talking like 6 weeks tops.
it just,
That's it.
you know where I stand. And for 6 weeks,
1969.
you know, I think Frank has already seen the ripple effect of people leaving the school in regards to us having it be recommended and optional.
So close to each other.
If we change this for 4 weeks, it just doesn't seem like
It's a $7,000.
it'll hurt the school.
Because it's 70 booths.
It's
Nellie, just to clarify, the ones who left because they want it to be mandatory.
I understand that, Frank. So the point is, we voted on this weeks ago that the masks were optional and that we recommend them and that they're not mandated.
Correct.
So the ones that aren't in alignment with that potentially have already decided to go to another school. So if there's only 4 weeks or 6 weeks, whatever it is, until this law actually goes into effect legally, it's just a small amount of time in the whole school year. So why would we change the policy and potentially run many people out of the school who then have access to funds to educate their children?
Yeah, I think the reason we would do it, Nellie, is because it wouldn't be about the funding or the enrollment. It would be about, it would be a safety choice.
I understand that. I'm just having a voice for the people, as a board member, for the people in our community that want to have a voice.
Fair enough.
As we all are. We all are, we're here representing our community. And I'm listening to emails that have come in from people saying, we are not masking our children. And that's their choice.
Dan, you just joined us recently. What's your take on the whole situation?
I apologize for being late. I'm trying to move. I can speak somewhat objectively around the reasons why people might want to enforce a mask mandate for 4 weeks, is because that there's a not insignificant chance that the courts will overturn it and you'll be allowed to extend it past 4 weeks. And the people that are pro-mask are seeing risks to children increasing and are wanting to protect their children, obviously, and the children of other people and other families as things spread. And then people will also argue that they're seeing deaths of children in hospitals. And you can argue that there's a lot of children, and statistically that it's a small amount, but it's like before it wasn't really occurring as much, and now it is statistically kind of relevant and occurring. So that's why people are wanting this, to answer your question, Nellie. I have been consistently pro-mask because I kind of align with the wider medical community, and that's my take on it. But I also agree that, there's almost zero, like Frank said last meeting, there's like no way to make everybody happy. It's almost like a 50-50 split. It feels like at the school, where we're going to make almost no one happy by either not being strong enough or being too strong in our decision on this. And it's just a lose-lose situation for the most part. And I mean, that's where I stand, I guess, on it.
Michelle, do you have a view from the side of parent council?
I don't know if I can really represent parent council because I've seen and heard parents on both sides. I can tell you my view as a parent myself, but I don't feel comfortable as it being the parent council view. So I am concerned for my children. My kids all mask. I also have to request that they eat outside and that type of thing too. So we're not passing germs. But I also have a child who is asthmatic for I don't know why. As much as I've tried to heal him naturally, I can't get it done. So I am worried more about what will happen to him or any of my children if they have it, at what their future is. I'm not as worried about the death rates because they are low. But I'm worried about the heart issues that some children might have for the rest of their lives. We don't know enough about this virus to know what will happen to them. So better if everybody was that's again my opinion.
Thank you for sharing. But again, if your kids are masked because it's your choice, other families should also have that choice.
Protecting my
They're still able to be with them.
everybody were to wear
It's like 14%. Appropriately. Correctly all the time, and you're never going to sure.
I appreciate that information. Thank you. We also asked the majority of the faculty if they
We have not taken a survey from the faculty on what they want. We have given them the choice to do what they want. But we have not asked for their personal opinion. And in conversations, it's the same conversation regarding vaccinations. Answers come out like, I'm not answering you on that. That's my personal business. So while I have some that would say, yes, I want a mask, and I have some who would say, I don't want to wear a mask ever, I would have some who would say, that's my personal decision. I don't need to tell you why. Again, we're all over the place. There's no consensus on either side of this, which concerns me.
So, from my perspective, we are in the midst of extremely high community transmission in Maricopa County right now. Unfortunately, I can't share my screen, but we are at levels of community transmission in Maricopa County very similar to where we were seeing them in January timeframe when we closed the school and went remote. Obviously, that's not an option right now, but they are at that level of height with a variant that is more infectious, possibly, more harmful. With and all of that said, when we did reopen the school with everyone wearing masks, we were extremely successful at not having transmission happen on our campus at all during the entire school year when we were open. We had, people got used to it, but many people did not like it. I acknowledge that. Many people vocally did not like it, and we were hearing that voice again in the couple hours leading up to this board meeting. But from my perspective, it was an effective tool at mitigating transmission on our campus and allowed us to have all of our teachers continue teaching. It allowed the classes to continue happening, and requiring masks when we're legally permitted to do so seems like a common sense precaution when we have community transmission as high as we do in Maricopa County right now. So that's my thinking on it. Obviously, there's lots of disagreement.
And are you concerned if that does change for those families who would want to leave because they choose not to mask? Do you think that number, if it's significant, would change your decision? Let's say we had 17 leave because they would prefer that we mandate, and we have 40, 50 leave because they don't want to be masked.
Well, I mean, that's certainly a possibility, Daniel. I don't know what that number is. If we took the emails we got at face value, it would probably be about 15 or 16 kids at least. But my obligation as a board member is to ensure the financial and legal integrity of the school. That's my mission. That's my mandate as a board member. And one of the things that I see as within that purview is the safety of kids at the school. And if I have to make a choice about here's something that is annoying and inconvenient, but effective at preventing a disease from spreading on campus, that could potentially subject the school to liability. If, God forbid, we had a kid get it on our campus and there was a case to be made that we were falling below some standard of care, that would be horrible. It would be, doubly painful for the school. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to comment that, like, I'm watching things from Australia currently and watching the lockdowns that are occurring here, and the primary vehicle of transmission is all the schools and colleges. Like, it's primarily primary schools, elementary schools. It went from being all like, and then the other, like, it's like 2/3 that, and then like 1/3 like 20 somethings going to bars and stuff like that. But it used to be like retirement homes and various places like that, and kind of like frontline workers and hospitals. And it's definitely shifted. I mean, I'm assuming, and the vaccination rate here is relatively low, so that's going to be different, but it is primarily spreading among the schools, and they were saying the same thing. New Zealand is just shut down, and like that's kind of like where everyone's focusing now, is that the schools are one of the more at-risk places. So the decision that people who are thinking about this, like myself and probably others, is like, sure, if we lose people, that would be terrible. And at the same time, we're like, what are we sacrificing potentially for not losing some people, that we would potentially, like, that we're likely not, they're not allowing us to protect them because they don't want that. It's not their choices to, like, not, like, they have chosen a different path. But then we're potentially causing excessive risk to people who haven't chosen that path by not making that choice. Because it's unfortunately, It's not how disease vectors or these things work. It's not like everyone's choice isn't their own choice. We live in a community where we're all together, and one person's choice does affect others. So I guess that's all I want to say.
Yeah. So I think we've voiced the opinions that are out there. I think it's time to take a vote on this, unless somebody else wants to add anything before we do that. Yes, Mr. Tanner.
So what is it exactly that we're voting on? Because there isn't a motion. Are you talking about indoor only mask policy? Are you, well, like, what are the particulars?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, maybe that's where we can flush out some of the nuances here. Personally, I would be in favor of requiring masks indoors and permitting kids, especially in this heat, to take their masks on while they're outside and playing. You know, I'm not an epidemiologist, but from what I've read, this is primarily a viral load concentration that happens in air indoors. And once you get outside, that risk factor goes down dramatically. And to me, that's a fair compromise between, you know, requiring masks in the most dangerous situation and allowing that relief when you're outside.
Is that different from what was in our mask policy?
Well,
That
yeah.
sounds very, very similar. Isn't that what it already was?
No, technically, and I don't know what it was in practice on campus, but the requirement that came down from the health department, I want to say March or April of this year, was that masks be worn at all times on campus, including during athletic activities.
Yeah, and we'll get emails from people regarding this. And I'm not saying we should mandate it outside necessarily. I'm just going to provide some information around it. Like the arguments are is like there's examples of spreading at beaches, outdoor beach parties and stuff like that, where it's clearly outdoor transmissions happening and been proven. And I also don't know how statistically relevant it is. I don't have information on that. I know that they do say there's 1,000 times higher viral load with the Delta variant, which is crappy and probably why there's increased outdoor transmission. So that's why they're recommending, that's why like most of the health organizations have started recommending indoor and outdoor mask wearing, just to provide context.
Dan, is that beach party the one that you're referring to, the one in Cape Cod, where 75% of the people that got it were already vaccinated?
I was referring to one in Brisbane, up in Queensland here, that was happening. I don't know about the one in Cape Cod.
Oh, okay.
And it is spreading. The Delta variant is absolutely spreading among people who are vaccinated. That is confirmed and a known thing. And that is the only thing it's doing is it's making it so it doesn't, basically, if you're vaccinated, what they're seeing typically, if they're seeing vaccinated people aren't having to go into like the ICU or be hospitalized. I personally have two friends who are vaccinated with Pfizer, you know, the gold brand or whatever, and they both were laid up with a nasty cold for a couple of days, but they weren't hospitalized, but they got it. And that's the problem with a virus that changes over time. And same thing with like, you know, any vaccine, with the flu vaccine or flu vaccines, like this, that's always been the problem with the common cold. It changed faster than they could vaccinate it for. And the new vaccinations are the first time we've had any success at beating that effectively.
I understand how viruses work and vaccines work. I understand that most respiratory viruses don't happen in the summer.
It's not that they don't happen. It's they think those don't affect other people if you don't wear them. They only affect your own safety. So it's not exactly the same.
I just meant the risk. No matter what we do, there's a risk. I wasn't talking specifically to the seat.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts before we vote?
It would be nice to get teacher feedback, whether it's anonymous. Maybe we can put a note in a Dropbox on the office.
I agree with Danielle. I think that it would be great to hear from the teachers as well, and the community.
No, it's 4.
I think it's safe to say our community is split pretty close to the middle.
Well, my take on doing a poll is that sure we get more information, but what do we do with that information, and is it going to change anything? And
I would like to think so. I would like to think they're a good voice, and one of the main reasons why we're all together, the teachers that interact with our children.
You meant
Right,
more
but-
like it's, yeah. Like it's likely that 50-50 split there as well, potentially.
But it would be nice to know that if that is the case, then that's the case.
I agree. I would love to hear from the faculty and the teachers in the community. I'm just more saying that I'm not sure it necessarily would change the outcome of this motion, except for to delay it.
It did for our last vote, when we voted on it for the last time.
I'm sorry, how did, we didn't do a poll before our last vote.
We had asked Frank what the community wanted, what the faculty wanted.
That was about the enforcement of mask wearing per parents' requests. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I'm confused. I thought Gregory was talking about when we mandated masks in March when we came back from spring break. I thought it was just following the health department's, the state health department's direction. That I don't remember taking a poll of teachers before you guys approved that.
This was was it July when we were discussing whether we should make it optional or not?
Yeah, I'm not remembering that, Danielle, but in any event, any other thoughts before we vote?
Frank, have you heard personally from any of the parents out in drop-off, pick-up on campus?
Yes. On both sides. That's why I keep saying it's so close to the middle that it's not a win-win. No matter what we do here, someone's going to be upset.
All right, well, not hearing any other thoughts, let's have a vote. April, would you mind reading the motion back before we vote?
Let me get there. I gotta scroll.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry. I just want to be clear that according to our website in the Arizona Department of Education, the Department of Health, for the Parental Rights Handbook, line item 5 is the parent's right to make healthcare decisions for the minor child. I just want to have that in the notes, April, that's on our website in the handbook for the parents' rights.
Can you repeat that if you want it clearly? I got kind of muddled because I had to scroll down while you were talking.
You're on mute, Nellie.
Oh,
Sorry. Parents' Bill of Right definition. Number 5. The right to make healthcare decisions for the minor child.
And,
can you repeat the reference where it was from? You said it's on our website, but what is it from? You're muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
The Arizona Department of Education Parental Rights Handbook.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
And I'll also just put out there for the record, the Arizona Department of Education, along with the Maricopa County Department of Health, are both recommending universal use of masks at schools right now.
It's a recommendation.
Yes, because they don't have the authority to require it. Mr. Tanner.
So just so I understand this, the motion is for mass indoors. So the second a student's foot crosses the threshold of a classroom, then they are required to have a mask on. And the second a student's foot crosses the threshold exiting the classroom, then they may remove the mask. Is that correct? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you ready for me to read it?
And this won't affect our funding in any way by what the governor said today. Didn't he threaten to take funding away? Yeah, please, yes.
Well, I'm not familiar with the threat to take funding away or how he would do that. I am familiar with the promise of additional funding if we were to follow the law that doesn't take effect until September 29th early. And that source of that additional funding would be through that grant program.
Gregory, I'm just checking, how things are always fuzzy on the first day of these things. So I appreciate your bringing clarity to that.
All right. Any other thoughts before we vote?
You want me to reread it?
Yes, please.
Gregory Schneider moved that DMS require universal mask wearing indoors through 9/28/2021.
Right. All those in favor? Kirsten, me, April, and Dan. All those opposed? That's Nellie, Mr. Tanner, and Danielle. So the motion will carry 4-3. I appreciate a respectful conversation on a difficult topic. I recognize many people are not going to be satisfied with that result. I hope you can respect at least the deliberation of the tonight, the thoughtfulness that went into this decision. Tonight was very different than what I have heard from other public board meetings have occurred. The discussions have not been disrespectful or polite, and I just want to say I appreciate all of you bringing your professionalism this evening. All right, with that,
Question, when
Yeah.
does this start?
Good question. Not covered by our motion.
September 30th.
Well, I guess we need another motion. So
No, the first one's good. September 30th.
We could leave it up to the school as well.
I'd like to request window watching learning for my daughter, please.
Well, the reason I ask is I'm looking at 18 people watching this. There is no way we can expect that even an email this evening would be read by all of our people for tomorrow's school day.
No.
I even, in my experience of sending emails to our parents, they need more than one day. I recommend if we're doing this, Monday is the day to do it. Not, we got to let them wrap their head around it, understand what the rule is, understand their kid would be sent home if they don't put a mask on, which is, I assume you're telling me to do that.
Do you have a provision for special accommodations or health accommodations? Exemptions?
That's a very good question.
I have one for work, so I wanted to find out if you had a provision for that.
Are you asking? Now I'm unaware of one for our school. If the board needs to decide on one, that's up to you guys.
So I have a medical exemption through work to avoid mask wearing. So hopefully a school, we can implement one as well.
Can't we go back to the mask wearing mandate that we were set up for last year? It's largely the same thing where, okay, some people were allowed to wear the face shield, I guess, but even though it's not terribly effective for Delta. Do we have that we can go through and apply the same structure without having to reinvent everything?
Do we have the wording on that easily accessible?
let's see if I can pull up the old mitigation plan quickly. All right, mitigation plan revised November 2020. All right, this says all students, staff, contract workers, and community guests are required to wear facial coverings at all times while on campus for the face mask policy and local ordinances. Appropriate facial coverings include face masks, face shields, and neck gaiters. Here's our fall 2020 mask policy. Loading. Yeah, I mean, the answer, Dan, is it changed over the course of the year as things went into effect. The one I'm looking at from July 15th of 2020, over a year ago now, it was masks are required, but you could take them off when seated at your desk, when you're eating. There's no mask on the playground. That changed by March, I want to say, to masks were required all the time, but you would have mask breaks and that sort of thing.
And I don't remember allowing face shields or gaiters.
Right. I think that changed as well. in the spring. So I hear you about the medical exemption. I think that's a good idea. If how we would permit that, I think is I'm open to suggestions on how we would implement permitting that kind of exception. Do we require a doctor's note? Is a parent statement enough? What do we want to do with that?
What's typically required for a medical exemption, Frank?
I'd say so for me through my employer, it was a survey with an HR specialist, and that was kept confidential from any other of my colleagues.
Definitely confidential.
Well, normally a medical doctor, in the form of a letter from them.
I guess the alternative would be there's a form that families fill out about vaccines that are required, because there are some that are generally required to be in public school, but then you can fill out a form saying that you have a religious or personal belief or a reason why you can't have one. And then that goes in your file, and then your kids can come to school if they're not vaccinated for things like polio and that sort of stuff.
And this is employees also.
Right. So my thought, and I think we also need to have, it's not just medical, right? There are, religious exemptions that would apply to this kind of thing. And it's the same as, well, it's not the same, but if one were going to require vaccines, which that's not even under discussion, but when you do that, you have to offer exceptions for medical reasons or strongly held religious beliefs. And it's up to whoever's administering that policy to evaluate that request. And I think it's just going to have to be something, Frank, that you're evaluating on a case-by-case basis as, is this legitimate or not? I don't know that we could spell out every possible parameter that would be a legitimate medical request or a legitimate religious exemption request. I think it's just got to be, something where if people come to you and say, this is my situation, then you would have to work with them.
Are there any notes that would not work, like a homeopath?
I don't. It's that's where people are seeking medical care. I think that's their choice. I don't think we're going to make decisions about who's licensed to practice medicine in the state of Arizona. So, all right, not hearing a whole lot of commentary on this one. I will move that there be exceptions to the previously approved mask policy for those with medical needs or strongly held religious beliefs.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Any other discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's Kirsten, me, April, and Dan. All those opposed? That's Nellie, Mr. Tanner, and Danielle. The motion carries. All right. And then we still need to address, when is this policy going to start? Going back to Frank's first question. So I will move that the mask requirement begin on Monday, August 23rd.
Should we also mention, like, I don't think kids should be sent home on Monday necessarily. You know what I mean? Like, they should have a couple days to kind of get around it, and or have temporary masks or masks provided by the school if needed.
Yeah, I think that those kinds of discretionary decisions are going to be. Well, let me ask you this, Frank. Do we have a supply of disposable masks at the school?
Yes, but they're the cloth ones. They're not the disposable. But we're running low because it's what's left over from last year. So I'd have to order more. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what some of that ESSER funding was meant to be for, are things like COVID mitigation.
Sure, and we have some of that left over.
I guess I'm not, 23rd sounds fine. I just want to make sure that people have time to, that we have capacity to make sure that it is communicated out, and it's not just that there be some nuance in the enforcement and implementation of the mandate. I'm not sure how to say that in a motion outside of giving Frank the indication that that's what we intend with the mandate.
Okay. All right. So let me withdraw that motion. Let me try this again. I will move that the mask requirement begin on August 23rd, 2021, provided that the executive director shall have discretion to implement the policy consistent with available supplies at the school and providing families adequate notice of the change in the policy.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Wait, I'm sorry. Can I reread that just to make sure that I got it right?
Yep.
Okay. Gregory Schneider moved that the mask requirement begin on 8/23/2021, provided that the executive director shall have discretion to implement the policy consistent with available supplies at the school and providing families with adequate time with the change in the policy. I feel like the ending of that is not right and I missed something.
Providing families with adequate notice of the change in the policy.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? Kirsten, me, April, and Dan in favor. All those opposed? That's Danielle, Mr. Tanner, and Nellie. any other logistical pieces of this that we need to flesh out? Oh, okay.
Sorry, I couldn't get my mute button. About masks or about COVID-19?
About what we just voted on.
Okay. No,
Is there something else you wanted to talk about with COVID?
I just want to reiterate about the one email we received and the board, and they're pushing out stances on vaccinations. So if we're going to send out a letter in regards to this mask mandate, I want to make sure that we're not taking a side in regards to the vaccination stance, that this should strictly be about masks and not about vaccinations.
I think that's fair. And that's all we've decided tonight is, are we requiring masks or not? And we decided that we are. Okay.
Gregory, I assume you want me to write the email, or do you guys want to write the email?
I think you can probably write it and get it out faster than we can. So I would appreciate it personally if you could do that. All right. Anything else on this topic, guys? Okay. So that brings us to updates from Frank about goings on at the school and anything we need to take action on.
Just a quick capital update. The wall by the high school that replaced the broken fence is now up and stuccoed. It was supposed to be painted today, but on and off rain has delayed that. So I'm hoping it will be painted tomorrow. And I was fortunate enough to meet a new contractor that Jimmy Wabe set me up with, and I thank him for that, who is going to give us a bid on the bathrooms over at the high school, as the other two bids were just ridiculously high. I wouldn't even touch those bids with a 10-foot pole, and Jimmy swears this guy will do us right. So I'm still moving forward on the bathrooms. I'm still moving forward on the wood shop, as I have a new bid for the cement slab, and it is within the dollar amount that you guys gave us last time. So I think I'm going to call them tomorrow and move forward on that. And that's it for the capital projects. Trying to think, there was a couple things in my board report. Yes, the air purifiers are in and up and running. Our number is 285 right now. We do have a couple that we've offered the spots to get back to 287. And we have a tour next Tuesday as well. And so we're hoping again to climb to 290, as I just keep worrying about dropping below that 287. That's it right now. I know I thought I had a couple more things to talk about, but my mind is going in a lot of directions right now. Trying to prep for this for tomorrow morning, and the letter I'm going to send home. So obviously that's going to take a precedence now of communicating what's happening, and then doing our very best to implement our change in policy. Oh, I changed the parking and pickup. Went much better today, much smoother. I think we're going to stick with that for a while and assess it in another week or so to see how that's going.
Frank, do we know when we'll allow drop-off for the kids to play before school starts again?
In talking to staff, that is the least desired plan to happen, because it's very difficult to supervise kids in that situation. So I do not, that has not been in any of our plans if we've discussed changing pickup and drop off. that's not an option right now.
Thank you.
Frank, that wall looks great by the high school.
Thank you. I know they're excited. I talked to
That's good.
Chance today because they're excited to get to put murals on it of their own artwork. And so they're going to start discussing what and how and when as soon as the wall gets painted.
That's great.
Frank, thank you for that and for your continued hard work in making the campus as beautiful as it has become over the last 8 months. It's really taken a turn for the better. I think it's in the best shape it's been in years. And I do appreciate the difficult situation our vote tonight puts you in. So thank you. I know you have some hard work and some hard days ahead of you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Frank? Okay. That takes us to our various board things. The first one is approval of our minutes of our previous meeting. So I will move to approve the minutes of our August 4th, 2021 meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kirsten. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is everybody except Mr. Tanner. All those opposed? Abstaining? Now I'm wondering if Mr. Tanner
I think he's frozen.
frozen. Yeah. We'll call that abstaining in his absence or unavailable, and the motion carries. April, you had a board education reminder that you wanted to discuss?
Yes. Let me pull it up. Just give me 1 second. Oh my gosh, I have so many windows open. This is bad. Give me 1 second. Got it. Thankfully, I have that file. Everything in one spot. Okay, so based on our meeting that was June 30th, we penciled some names in for board education. So our next meeting is September the 1st. We have Danielle marked to present that day. The following month, 10/6, that's me. In November 3rd, that's Gregory, who said he wanted to ask someone to come in, teach state standards and Waldorf curriculum. And then Dan signed up for our first December meeting, December 1st. So just wanted to put those reminders out there. Again, more information on this of the general plan of what we had discussed, how we want to do it. But looks like you're up next, Danielle, just 10, 15 minutes sharing a topic with us.
And on the note of education, Joan Treadaway had offered to do 20-minute or so trainings with us at the beginning of our meetings once a month. Has anyone reached out to her to initiate that?
I spoke to her today and she's open for that date if we'd like to pull her in for 9/1.
Let's do that. I think that would be great.
Danielle, I have an appointment with her on the phone on Tuesday. Do you just want me to confirm it with her and put it in, hey, please be there, you're on type of thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. And then our next meeting, I'm going to be out of town. I'm traveling for my honeymoon. I got married in March of 2020, and we're finally going to take a honeymoon. So,
anyone we know, congratulations.
Thank you. Her name's Lou. She's wonderful. So I need someone else to lead the next meeting. Danielle, I think you offered. Unless anyone else wants to fight Danielle for it, I'm inclined to give it to the early bird. So Danielle, you're up. So I'll send you, well, you should have a Word version of our agenda. And you can work from that to make the agenda for the next meeting. And if you have any questions leading up to September 1st, just let me know.
When's your last day here?
I get on a flight at 10:30 on September 1st, 10:30 in the morning.
Okay. So you'll be here up until that day.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tanner, yes.
So when Danielle leads the meeting, she's not a board officer. She's only acting as a board member leading the meeting.
She's just coordinating.
Okay.
Yeah.
And happy birthday, Gregory. I understand it's tomorrow.
Friday.
Happy birthday. Your kid was spreading rumors on campus.
We're celebrating tomorrow evening.
Okay. That might be why he said tomorrow.
Somebody's having a birthday today.
All right. Well, thank you, Danielle. I appreciate that. That brings us to the end of our meeting. So I will move to adjourn.
We should go longer. Second.
Actually, someone should second this motion.
I second.
Thank you, Danielle. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Motion carries. And Michelle, could you please read the closing verse for us?
Absolutely. The most important tasks for humankind today and in the future is that we should learn to live together and understand one another. If this human fellowship is not achieved, all talk of development is empty. Rudolf Steiner.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Michelle, and thank you to all the 18 people who are watching this evening, and to each of my fellow board members, and to Frank and Michelle for a very thoughtful discussion this evening. The next meeting is September 1st, and I will see you not then, but at the following meeting. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.